Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I want to tell you about why I love the Stratocaster. Now I have this American Professional 2 in pink with tortoiseshell, and which has a humbucker in the bridge, so it's HSS configuration. And then I also have a Player Series 2 Strat, which I put a Hot Rails, a mini humbucker in the bridge, and I put a tusk nut and locking tuners on it. That's all I've done to this one. Now to start off, I've heard a lot of people say they don't like Strats, they look nerdy, blah, 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 blah. I think they look great. I think they look really cool. It's definitely what I think of when I think of a guitar, and it's what a lot of people think of. And maybe that's why people don't like the Strat, because they want something unique and isn't just a run-of-the-mill guitar. Because when most people get like their first guitar, a lot of times it's a Strat or like a Strat variant or a Strat shape. But I think it looks awesome. The Strat is also so widely used. It's been used by so many people for so long in so many different genres. I'll just run off some names that I wrote down here on my notes. Obviously, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, John Mayer, Nile Rodgers, Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, John Frusciante, Yngwie Malmsteen, David Gilmour, Mark Knopfler, Mick Mars. This thing has covered so many genres because of the different pickup configurations you can put in it by so many people, and it's just a great guitar. It's also one of the guitars that looks good relicked, whether it's light relicking or heavy relicking. A lot of times on people's Les Pauls, they like some light checking, not really heavy relicking, but there's Strats that have super heavy relicking, and people love that look, that people love the brand new look. I like the brand new look, or maybe some light wear and tear on them, maybe on the pick guard, or when I like it when maybe the finish is off right here where people put their arm, just some light wear. But everybody likes everything in between, and they look so good even when they're completely worn in. Now a big pro, especially back to when I was talking about beginner guitarists, is the price. Now if you didn't know, the reason Strats are so much cheaper, because they're so much cheaper to produce, is they have a bolt-on neck. There are screws back here where the neck can come off of the body. And Les Pauls and SGs aren't like that. They're set necks where they're a lot more difficult to do repairs on the neck that involve taking the neck off or something like that. It's kind of one whole piece, and that's what makes them more unique to them and makes them much harder to build. So yeah, the main thing that drives the difference in price between Les Paul or an SG or something like that and a Strat or even a Telecaster is the bolt-on neck. Anything with a bolt-on neck is much cheaper to produce because they just make them separately and they bolt them together. So speaking about prices, the American Professional 2 I have here, brand new, is about $1,600, and that's in the SSS configuration with 3 single coils. If you get a humbucker or you get a different configuration, they're a couple $100 more, maybe like $100 more. They're definitely more than the standard single coil configuration, but they're about $1,600 new for the American Professional. This is the first one, I believe, in their American line, and then it goes to the Ultra and the custom shop after that. But if you want to get into an American Strat, the American Professional 2 is where you're going to be. Now, a cheaper alternative, the Player Series, is about $800 new, once again for the 3 single coil configuration, which is what this was in when I bought it before I put the mini humbucker in it. And then you can get Squires, and you can get all kinds of other different people make them, but Squire's pretty much the entry-level one, and then you go to a Player Series, American Professional, and a lot of people just stop at the American Professional because it's such a good guitar. The Ultras are a little more expensive. Some people say they're not worth the price, then obviously the custom shop after that. Now, just like with any guitar, just like with Les Pauls or SGs or Telecasters or anything, there are bad Stratocasters out there. If you're getting them for $100, $150, yes, they could be bad, and if they're not Fenders or Squires. Fenders and Squires are kind of the benchmark because Squire is affiliated with Fender. So those ones are the ones that people are tried and true, and those are the ones they get are Fender and Squire. Then obviously there's higher end above that, like Charvels are really expensive and stuff like that. But when we're talking about the low end, a Squire is probably where I would go in at, even though there's a lot of other retailers that make kind of generic knockoff versions of the Stratocaster. Another thing I love about it is the shape. One thing people complain about on Les Pauls is that it's hard to get up into these higher frets because it's only a single cutaway. That's what some people say. They like SGs better than Les Pauls because SGs have the double cutaway. just like the Stratocaster. So it makes it a lot easier to get up here on these higher frets and get your hand up here. One of the reasons I like it so much is for its tuning stability. Now that's kind of ironic because it has a tremolo and it's not a hardtail. So a lot of people think that, well, they don't think tremolos are more temperamental when it comes to holding tuning, but I don't technically block mine. Some people put a block in the back and that keeps the tremolo from moving at all. I like to deck mine, and decking means to have the tremolo down against the body. So that way when you have a tremolo arm or a whammy bar or whatever, you can only go down. I can still use that effect by only pushing it down though. I can't go up at all because it's already flush against the body. When a lot of people balance their tremolo, they can go up and down with it. I don't really use my tremolo arm very much at all. I'll very rarely put it on just in case I'm playing a song that I really, really need it. But 99% of the time it's off of my guitar and I don't use it. So I just deck the trem. So that way I get the added benefits of the tuning stability with the tremolo not moving, and then I can still use it if I want to by putting the tremolo arm on. I can just only press down with it, but you still get the effect. And then another thing that adds to the tuning stability is that the strings go straight through the nut. Now on Les Pauls, the strings go through the nut and they go off at angles. They go left or right, but on the Fender Strat, they go straight through the nut. As you can see, they're kind of in line. And if they do have an angle, it's very little, but to be honest, they're pretty straight when I'm looking at it. Now, why that's better with the strings going straight through the nut is because there's less pressure side to side. There's less for it to snag on. If you're going through the nut and you're going left or right after you go through it, then it could hang up on more. It's already gliding against the bottom of the nut, but then it's going to be also gliding against the walls. On the Strat, most of the pressure, because especially with the string tree, that's why the string tree is pushing the strings down, is they just have all the pressure on the bottom of the nut, on the bottom of that channel. When you have your strings angling, they're also pressing up against corners of the channel, which makes it tuning stability, it makes it more likely that they're going to snag on something if they're not filed very well or something like that. Now, in addition to the cutaway and the strings going in line through the nut, we also have the belly cut on the back, which is something that was a great addition that a lot of people loved with the Stratocaster. Is very comfortable. It's why a lot of people find the Stratocaster a little bit more comfortable than the Telecaster. The Telecaster has a very blocked off shape on it, as does the Les Paul. But the Stratocaster has a belly cut in it, and it fits perfectly right against either your chest, your pec, or right below your chest where your belly is. It fits perfectly, along with this little beveled edge, tapered edge where your arm comes across. It's constantly one of the most comfortable guitars. Now, it's also very light. That's something a lot of people like about it, especially people that are playing standing up and with a strap. It doesn't wear you down as much as a Les Paul does. That could be significantly heavier. A Fender Strat is very light. Additionally, something people don't talk about very much that I like is I feel like it has a protected input jack. A lot of guitars like the SG will go straight in the front, or like a Les Paul or a Telecaster, they'll go right in the side. And I like it here because it's more protected. It's less likely to snag and pull out. It doesn't have as much of a, you don't have something poking out at the edge of your guitar here or at the top of your guitar like another knob would if you plugged it straight in here. But I like it because it just fits in there nicely, and it kind of becomes part of the guitar when it fits in that little channel there. It also has a slimmer neck than a lot of guitars. A lot of Gibsons, you'll see they have thicker necks. People consistently rant and rave about how slim and nice the Fender Strat necks are to play on. Although small, I like having tuners that are all in line, and I just know which way is tight and which way is loose and how to tune it. And if they're all on this side, I don't have to crank my hand the other way and tune them this way. Because sometimes you'll get your top 3 strings tuned and you'll switch to the bottom ones, and you'll be zoning out because you're tuning just like you do every day or however often you do it. And you'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot on this side, you need to turn the other way to tighten. And I just like them all in line. I like them all on top. And I think it looks a lot cleaner. And it's just easier to just tune them all straight in a line like that. The Fender Strat's also very balanced. The Les Paul, when I've played them, they're very bottom end heavy. The butt of the guitar likes to slide off the back. Then SGs have a lot of neck dive. They're known for a lot of neck dive. Now, I know there's ways to fix those and to counter those to where they're not as big of a deal, and I agree with that. But the Fender Strat is just balanced right out of the box. It doesn't feel too heavy either way. It just sits perfectly with or without a strap. I think another testament to the shape and the build of the Stratocaster is that a lot of Ibanez's are in the same shape. And those are a little bit more blockier. They're not as tapered along the edges as a Stratocaster is, but they have the double cutaway and they look almost exactly like this. This is such a great design in the way that it's shaped and the way that it plays. Now, to be fully transparent, there is one thing in my time playing a Stratocaster that I am not a huge fan of, and it's the selector switch and the position of the selector switch. Specifically, I mean really only when it's pointing towards the strings, because a lot of times you'll be strumming and your hand will hit the selector switch and usually only knock like one notch. So you'll go from just the neck pickup to, a lot of times it'll switch and you'll have these two on, but you can usually hear it and you got to flick it back. I'm not a big fan of where the selector switch is and my hand hitting it, but it's part of the design. It's been there forever and I think it looks cool where it's at. I just think it's not functionally the greatest right there because my hand hits it all the time. My hand never really hits the tone knobs or the volume knobs, but it does hit the selector switch every so often. Like I said, especially when I'm doing a lot of big strums. Another reason this guitar is so popular and it's something a lot of people like to get into on the cheaper end is because it's so easily modified. Now I'll try and put a picture up on the screen here, but depending on what type of Stratocaster you get, after you take the pick guard off, there'll be channels to fit the pickups in. And some of them, even if they come with 3 single coils, they'll be routed out for you to put a humbucker in aftermarket. Or even if they do come with 3 single coils, they're pretty easy to just route out a little bit wider and put a humbucker in. It's very common to do. This guitar has a humbucker single coil. That's how it came to me. I didn't change it. And then this player Strat came with 3 single coils, and then I put a mini humbucker here because I didn't want to have to worry about getting a new pick guard that would fit a humbucker and then seeing if it was routed out or routing it out for a humbucker. So I just put a mini single coil in there because it was kind of plug and play. But you can get pick guards that will do HSH or HSS or whatever you want to do. And that kind of alludes back to one of the people that I said played the Stratocaster, Mick Mars, the guitarist for Motley Crue. He had a Fender Strat with a Floyd Rose on it and HSH pickup configurations. And a lot of people consider Strats to be more of a clean tone, not so much a distorted tone. But I mean, that was the guitarist that played metal and he just had HSH on it and it sounded great. A lot of times when comparing it to its counterparts, I mean, Les Pauls usually are just humbucker. So are SGs or P90s. They never really have single coils in them. They're a lot less modifiable when it comes to putting different pickups in them. In addition, those guitars, the pickups tend to go straight into the body, not into a pick guard. Some of them do. Some SGs have a pick guard that the pickups go into, but on all Strats, they go straight into the pick guard, which you just change out the pick guard, and it's basically like you're changing the whole top of the guitar. On the topic of easily modified, parts are cheap. Whether you need a new bridge saddle, or you need a tone knob, or you need a whole new neck, or you need tuners, or whatever you need, parts are cheap for the Stratocaster. It's so widely used and so heavily modified, and people make parts casters that there's tons of aftermarket support, whether that's from Fender or whether that's from other companies that have made their own parts. There's tons of aftermarket parts. A great example of modified Strats is Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstrat. Now that was heavily modified, looked like a science project, but everybody loves it. It's tried to be replicated and people love the Frankenstrat and the look of it. And kind of like I talked about earlier, you can modify the tremolo. Now you can have what's called a floating tremolo, which means that it's just floating and you can go up and down with it with the whammy bar or the tremolo arm. You can have it blocked, like I was talking about earlier. Eric Clapton blocks his, where you put a piece of wood back there and it keeps the tremolo from moving at all. It basically turns it into a hardtail. Now you can also meet somewhere in the middle, kind of like I do. I add an extra spring or two to make it a little stiffer, and then I tighten them all the way up to deck it against the body. That way I can still use a tremolo arm if I want, even though I don't use it very often, but I get a little more tuning stability because it's kind of like halfway a hardtail by being up against the body. Also, you can add a Floyd Rose to it. Like I said, with Mick Mars and his Strat, you can add a Floyd Rose to it, and you can really modify it and do whatever you want and have a different sort of tremolo and a locking nut on it and have way more tuning stability. Now this guitar is kind of the Glock of guitars. It's like if you ever went to the apocalypse and you were playing your guitar in the apocalypse and you needed to replace something, you could probably ransack all the houses on your street and there would be another Strat of some kind of whatever brand that you'd be able to take a part off of and fix your guitar. This thing is so popular, so much aftermarket support, so many people have it that you can easily put one together from scrap parts if you've been playing guitar and fixing guitars for years, or if you want to modify a new one, or whatever you want to do. I mean, this thing is just, there's a lot of times you'll see one that you'll never see again because everybody likes to modify theirs and make theirs very unique to them. Now, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you made it to the end of the video, I just wanted to shed a little light on the Stratocaster and kind of talk about why I like it so much. I don't hear a lot of people talk about how much they love the Strat and kind of its pros and cons versus other guitars to maybe help you guys out if you're in between your next guitar or your first guitar. I just wanted to share my opinions on it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.